Let me answer this question right up front. The answer is no. You did not waste your time with a narcissist. Now, I got to admit, the time that I spent with narcissists in my life was not pleasant by any measure whatsoever. It was difficult, it was challenging, but hey, look, we got to keep in mind that the best learning moments of our lives were when we were going through the toughest times. I'll give you an example, just pops in my head. I've had a problem with inflammation, compounded by the fact that I have a problem with my rotator cuffs. It's hard to put on a shirt, for crying out loud, but what I have learned is that I have learned by enduring the pain and the hurt and trying to get the shirt just to get over my shoulders. Yeah, I'm learning to do it. So it is through the difficulty that we learn. Now, that should be obvious. We're saying, yeah, I still would prefer not to have been around the narcissist. Unfortunately, that's not the way life works. We do have challenges, and the more challenges we go through, the more we learn to face new challenges. So, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if we could just remove all challenges and everybody would just be happy, right? Wrong. How do I know that? Well, stop and think about it. The year today is 2022. We're living at the apex of human civilization when it comes to conveniences and innovations that enhance our lives every single day. Stop and think about how people lived 200 years ago, 1822. They didn't have any of this stuff that we have. Now, maybe they were thinking, well, they couldn't possibly have imagined what we have, but if they could have seen a vision of our automobiles, our air travel, our communication abilities, the internet, so forth, so on, they would say, man, that's utopia. The abundance of food, the medicine that we have, medical care is what I was trying to say, that we have, they had nothing like that 200 years ago. Okay, go back 2,000 years, go back 20,000 years, as far back as you want to go. We are living at the very apex of human civilization. Why is it that people aren't happy? You think they'd be pleased as punch. I mean, you think everybody would just be so thrilled to be alive at this point in time in the human experience, but they're not. So what we learn from that is if we remove all the adversity of our lives and all the difficult challenges, we're still going to be unhappy. So, forget about all that stuff. Yeah, let's make it as easy as we possibly can as a means to achieve happiness. Yeah, I want to make things as easy as I can, but I also understand that there is a reason for adversity. There is a reason why we are having these problems. So I can kind of lump this into two broad categories. And number one are things that we learn through our experience with a narcissist, which is never a good experience, and the things we unlearned, which is sometimes as important as the things that we learned. Okay, so it goes like this. There are 4 stages to learning and applying what we learn. Number 1 is what we would call the challenges, the tribulations, the difficulties, the heartaches, the frustrations. We call those just the challenges. I don't like to call them problems because I don't want to have problems, but I do like challenges, So we have these challenges, and what happens is, number 2, if we are patient, as we go through these challenges, as we endure these challenges, what that does is that develops, number 3, the experience of going through those. Well, that's the learning process. That's neuroplasticity. So we've got the problem, the challenge. We've got the experience of going through it. Now we have the learning process of how it is done. And what does that produce in us? Well, it produces confidence, for one. Probably produces a lot of things if I had time to stop and think about it. But the primary thing it teaches is when the next challenge comes up, we have learned how to go through this particular challenge. We have learned that we can make it through challenges. So that's where the confidence comes in. So it's basically all about human nature. It's all about psychology. It's all about neurology, making our brain the best that it can be. It's kind of like a workout for the brain, So when you are going through this difficulty, this challenge of being abused, of being, what is it, devalued by the narcissist. It's kind of like working out in a gym. Now, a lot of people kind of like to work out, but when you're, that kind of hurts. It depends on what you're doing, but it can be painful. But people understand, I got to go through this pain to get to the other side. And for some reason, knowing that there's going to be a positive outcome makes working out, to some people, fun. I mean, some people are not going to like it no matter what. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fun to go out and take a long walk. I'm not much for weightlifting. I wish I had that body type. I don't, so that's okay, but still the analogy fits. So as you look back on your experience with the narcissist, you may say, yeah, it hurt, but look at my muscles, look at my brain muscles, look at my endurance, look at all the benefits that I had because of that experience. It was a learning experience. Okay, number two broad categories. Stop and consider some of the things that you have learned, and then consider the things that you have unlearned as a direct result of being devalued and abused by a narcissist. Now, I'm not going to encourage anybody to go out and find a narcissist and just beg him to abuse him. I'm not going to encourage anybody to go out and find a narcissist and encourage them to devalue you so you can have stamina. Don't worry. You don't have to do that. They're going to find you, but I don't want to intentionally encourage people to put themselves through pain. What I want to do is encourage people, when the tribulations come, when the challenges come, when the difficulties come, is to be prepared to deal with it, because it's a learning process. So the second broad category, those things that we unlearned. Well, I can think of two things just right immediately off the top of my head. Nearly 7 years old, I've learned a lot of things over life, and one thing I've learned is I've got more to learn. But something that I unlearned was I unlearned this thing about being gullible, about being naive. I had to learn to unlearn not to be so trusting of people, because as we've talked about in other videos, my worldview is that everybody wore a white hat with a very few exceptions. Everybody was a good guy, and that's the way I approached the worldview, and that made me so gullible, so naive, that narcissists could still take advantage of me. And I got to say, that worldview has so permeated my thinking, it's still there, but it's not as impactful as it was a few years ago. The other thing I learned, and some people may bristle when I say this, but I've learned not to be so helpful, because one of the problems that I had that made me so gullible, that made me so naive, I love to help people. It just makes me feel good. For some reason, I think I'm going to be paid back if you're nice to people. Maybe the payback will be a thank you, or maybe the payback will be say, Ken, he's a nice guy. He helped me out. That's not the payback you get. The payback you get is they think you're naive, they think you're gullible, they think you're stupid, they think you're an easy target, they think you're low-hanging fruit, and they say, here's a guy we could take advantage of. He's trying to be nice. Nice guys finish last. Well, actually they don't, or the prisons would be filled with nice guys. They're not filled primarily with bad guys. But I had to unlearn that. I had to learn I can't help everybody, because not everybody needs help because they are helpless. A lot of people need help because they are manipulators. They put themselves in that position by design, on purpose. That's hard to comprehend why anybody would do that, but they do. And I have had to learn to unlearn to be so helpful. Let's keep hanging out if you want to. That's why we put two rectangles up on the screen. So if you want to keep talking together, you can click on one of those two rectangles. Our conversation together will continue, but if not, thanks for stopping by, and see y'all next time.